Mickey B backstage at Patchogue Theater with the one and only.
Backstage
That's
at
it.
Patchogue Theater. Holy mackerel.
With Julius LaRosa.
How are you?
A legend.
Oh, please.
You're a legend.
Please, I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Well, let me tell you something. The guy was born in Italy and then wound up being on television with Arthur Godfrey.
Who was born in
years.
Italy?
Well, you were born in Italy, no?
No. Are you joking?
Where were you born? Brooklyn,
I was
New York.
born in Brooklyn.
That's right.
But you know the interesting thing
But
is...
your family came from Italy,
well, when my mother got pregnant with me, they lived in Manhattan.
Right.
So they already registered at the hospital in Manhattan, okay? Now they moved to Brooklyn. Now it's New Year's Day, and Mama and I'm due. So my father has to take a cab because they already paid the $15 in Manhattan to make me. So physically, I was born in Manhattan, but Brooklyn.
What hospital were you born in?
27th Street.
I was born at Beth Israel Hospital.
I don't know. Is that Beth Israel? I don't know.
It was 18th Street.
No. Well, you know, it could be.
And then I moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah, well,
Williamsburg.
Yeah, well, we're in Bushwick.
In Bushwick, not too far away.
No,
right?
Adjacent.
Tell me a little bit about something. I mean, it's very interesting. You served in the United States Navy.
The Navy for 4 years. I enlisted for 3. And then in my 3rd year, the Korean War broke out. So I was frozen for a year. But you know, fate.
Right.
If I hadn't been frozen, I would have never met Arthur Godfrey.
And that was interesting. Now, you were singing in the Navy as well?
The last year, because they... Godfrey did a show, and I sang on Godfrey's show, and so the Navy transferred me to the United States Navy Band in Washington, D.C., because of all the promotion, the publicity that had happened. But originally, I was a regular Navy third-class airman.
Now, did you have proper training at that time, singing lessons?
No, I didn't.
Never
take any
did.
Singing lessons until I got on the Godfrey show. And very interesting, a boy won on the Talent Scouts, and I liked his natural quality. So I asked him who his teacher was, and he told me a man named Carlo Menotti, not John Carlo Menotti, you know, not the Junka. And so I studied with Carlo Menotti for 15 years, you know, and he taught me well.
Now, why did Arthur Godfrey like you so much? I mean, there was so much talent out there.
Because I was in show business. I was, you know, I was a kid in the Navy after high school, went into the Navy, and I was very un-show business. And so he was a very intelligent man. Godfrey was. God rest his soul. He was a good man. And he saw that I was I wasn't a show business kid, you know. And so he asked me to come and see him when I got out of the Navy. I went to see him, and a week later I started, and he said, you know, you remember the young man who I had a guest I met in the Navy, blah, 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 blah. Well, I told him to come and see me when he got discharged. He took me up on it. He came to see me, and it's a pleasure to introduce young man Julius LaRosa. And that's the way it started.
Now, you also had a lot of great talent on that show. I mean, the McGuire sisters was on there. Who else was there?
Tony Marvin was the great announcer with the big, big voice.
Sid Charisse was his wife, right? Tony Martin is Sid Charisse?
No, not Tony. Tony Marvin.
Oh, Tony Marvin.
Was the announcer.
Okay.
Yeah. And the McGuire sisters, the Cordettes.
Cordettes, same label.
Frank Parker.
Right, Cadets, Cadence Records.
Yes.
Archie Blyer.
Exactly.
You're the first to get started on the label.
Yeah.
Then
well, he started the label because
of you.
I was getting all kinds of mail. Where can I buy? At the time, I sang a song named "Anywhere I Wander, Anywhere I Roam."
That's the first song we did.
Yeah, exactly. And so Archie brought a box of letters from fans of the Godfrey show, said, where can I buy your record of Anywhere I Wander? And Mitch Miller said, who was the A&R man at the time, artist and repertoire, he said, no, the kid doesn't have a recording sound. So Archie started Cadence Records. And that's how it all started.
Great label.
Oh, absolutely.
Later on, the Cordettes with Lollipop.
Cordettes, the
two brothers come later on.
I was going to say the two brothers. They couldn't. Oh, big time.
Big time.
Absolutely.
They got started
but then the record really made the company. They had a thing with the Kennedy family.
Right.
And then it sold like 1 million copies or something, and then Kennedy was killed, and so immediately sales stopped. But by that time, it had really put Cadence Records.
Now, you were on the Arthur Godfrey show for how many years?
23 months.
23 months.
23
now,
months
there was a
to
problem.
the day.
Something happened. He fires you?
Well, he fired me, but that's a very interesting thing. Let me see how it goes again.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
I'm trying to think of the exact circumstances. Oh, yeah. I didn't show up for a dance class. So I got a note in the bulletin board, if you don't show up for the next dance class, you know, we'll talk or whatever. I forget the specifics. So the next dance class, I showed up, and then I went to see an agent, one of the major agents, and he said, you know, you should have a manager. So I got a manager. And the manager wrote to Godfrey and said, in the future, all discussions about Julius LaRosa will come through my office because I am now handling him. And Godfrey felt offended by that. And so he went to Bill Paley, William Paley, I think, was the president at the time. And Paley said, hey, you hired him on the air, fire him on the air. That's exactly,
really?
That's how it happened, yeah.
That was probably one of the first firings ever on the air, except for the aggravation that Jackie Mason gave Ed Sullivan.
That
was a whole different
I don't remember,
yeah. Now, some of the music you liked, I mean, you had to enjoy, you were up in the era of 1950.
Early 50s. Early 50s.
Great songs that I happened to love at that time with Johnny Ray came out.
Oh, of course.
If your heartache. Yeah, I love that song. I used to do that and rip my shirt off and the whole thing, cry, right? And I used to love.
If your heartache seemed to hang around too long.
Yeah, great song.
He was a nice fella, too, by the way.
And I love Teresa Brewer put nickel in that
time. In the
period.
Nickelodeon.
And the other one was similar to that. What was her name? I forgot. It'll come back to me in a second. But I loved all those songs. And Eddie Fisher.
Oh, yeah. Eddie Fisher was the hottest at the time. Must have had 27 hit records.
Yeah. And you were coming up right in the middle of that whole mix, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You did that other song, then you come up with this Hey Compadre song that came
Hey Compadre, exactly.
Yeah. Who wrote that song?
Hey Compadre is Archie Blyer, and I adapted it.
Oh.
Because we were talking, Archie had a phrase called previous acceptance. The first record we ever made was Anywhere I Wander, and it had indicated previous acceptance because I was getting a ton of mail, where can I buy your record of Anywhere I Wander? So Archie went to Columbia Records. Columbia refused Archie's offer, and so Archie started Cadence Records, and our first record was Anywhere I Wander, which sold well over 1 million copies.
Yeah, amazing.
And then we had a thing called My Lady Loves to Dance, My Lady Loves to Sing. Perry had a hit with it.
Right.
So we recorded it and sold a couple of 100,000.
Now, this was all after the Arthur Godfrey show, or during?
No, during.
During, and that's what really publicized.
Yeah.
Right? You were doing all those songs on the show.
Yeah.
National.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that other song, Domani.
Yeah.
Domani, right?
That was after Hey Compadre.
Yeah, that was another great song.
Yeah, maybe you'll fall in love with me, Domani.
Yeah, all those great songs. But today, I mean, there's so many albums out, the best of course, Julius LaRosa.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch
of them. Compilations with Dean Martin on there, and Blanca's on it.
All Italian-American singers.
Italian-American songs. Songs are still being bought today in
stores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tremendous. And your favorite artist of all time?
Oh, hands down, Sinatra. Hands down.
Everybody loved Frank Sinatra.
He was the best.
What was
I was many times asked, but one time I said he was number one, and the next guy was 36.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, he was the best.
What was it about Sinatra that stood out other people?
For openers, he was a very intelligent man, and he recognized the poetry in the artists like Cole Porter, Sammy Kaye, Danny Kaye. No, I can't think of him now. But Sammy Kahn, thank you. And Frank recognized that these were poems. And so all the songs he sang from these great composers and lyricists were intelligent lyrics. They weren't, they were poems. And Frank was an innately intelligent man, very intelligent, very well-read, too. And so he took advantage of his knowledge about it. And Did
you meet Frank?
Oh, yeah, met him a couple of times. He was always very warm, very much a gentleman. And I married a beautiful woman who looked like Ava Gardner.
Yeah.
And so the first time we went to see him, he was in Atlantic City. We went down to Atlantic City to see him, and we went backstage to see him, and this is right after I was married. And he looked at my wife, and he said, looks like my old buddy.
Yeah. See, I also married somebody that looks like a Gardner. My landscaper.
Oh.
Only kidding. But you know, all these great. You did a lot of television shows, right? You did a lot of shows besides Arthur Godfrey, right? You appeared on
At the time.
At the time.
Oh, Ed Sullivan had
right.
the biggest
Many times
show
you were on there, right?
And I'm trying to think of who else at the time, but there were a bunch of other
shows where you were on, doing all these great songs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What did you like? What were some of your hobbies as a kid? I know you were in the Navy, but what did you like? Did you like baseball? Football,
baseball. I was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan.
Did you ever play in the game? I mean, not as a pro?
Well, that's funny. Once in St. Louis, I knew who was the third baseman with St. Louis.
Oh, the old time. You mean way back?
Jeez, man, I can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Not anymore. The redhead.
Pardon?
Shane Dees?
No, Shane Deans was a shortstop.
He was shortstop. Who was the third baseman? I don't know what it was.
I can't think of it. Anyway, I knew him, and so I suited up with St. Louis and was standing next to this third baseman whose name I can't think of at the moment. Yeah. And the guy was fungoing to us, and he was really lollygagging. What's that? He was really lollygagging, you know. So I said, tell him to try to hit it through me, because I had good hands. I wasn't a ball player, but I had the equipment to be one. Right. And I said, tell him to try to get through me, and he couldn't get through me. And every time I'd see him there, he died last year. He was a very nice man, the manager. I can't think.
So now you were born in
Brooklyn,
in Manhattan, but lived in Brooklyn.
And, yeah, that's right.
And where did you go to high school?
Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland.
In Ridgewood, Queens. Yeah.
What do you think about? Well, at that particular time, you didn't have that career really start. You started after.
Oh no, I started after. Yeah.
Afterwards, so nobody really knew. Have you met any of your old friends
from time to time?
That said, Julius LaRosa. We can't believe that you're on the other.
Oh yeah, from time to time, I run into
Did you sing in
old
high school?
friends.
Were you
I'm sorry.
Were you in the Glee Club in high school?
Yeah, it was in the. We called it my high school, Grover Cleveland. It was called the Senior Chorus.
Oh, the Senior Chorus.
And I was in the Senior Chorus.
How many albums did you actually record?
Pardon?
How many albums?
Not many. You know, for as long as I've been in the business, I don't guess I've recorded 20 albums. And you know, I think Tony has 192. Tony Bennett has.
Yeah, but you still got all those albums.
And Frank has a ton of albums.
Do any TV commercials?
I did one a long time ago for. Oh, geez. American Airlines. I think it was American Airlines. Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting. They don't like a very recognizable voice for anonymous.
Yeah.
You know, what do they call it? Off camera. There's a word for it. I can't think of it the moment. There's a lot of things I can't think of anymore.
You all can't think of it anymore.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and also, I was giving some thought to you were in high school. You come out. You do some TV shows. Any movie deals?
No, I made one movie. And one day I'm going to be able to buy every copy that was ever made, and I'm going to burn it.
Yeah. What was that movie?
It was called Let's Rock.
Let's Rock. Don't tell me with Alan Freed.
No. It was when rock and roll first started.
Right.
And so in the movie I had a reputation as a ballad singer, so they wanted me to get more commercial. And so they said, make a rock and roll song or something. And so the movie was called Let's Rock.
Let's Rock. Who was in it with you? Do you remember?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Phyllis Newman.
Oh, Phyllis Newman.
Yeah, she was just starting back then.
Yeah.
And another gentleman you would know, I can't think of his name at the moment. There's a lot of things I can't think of anymore.
Well, I tell you, when I always find that people who love the contemporary music, as soon as you said rock and roll, rock and roll, they didn't really like rock and roll. But rock and roll really went on to do a lot of
and it stayed. It stayed, absolutely. Well, rhythm.
You had guys that came out of there like Paul Anka and Neil Sedaka and Bobby Darin. Those kind of guys. I love the Sinatra music as well.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Frank set the standard. He, as I have been quoted gleefully, he was number one. The next guy was 36, you know.
Yeah.
That was the space between him and... well, Frank was a very intelligent man, and he recognized the Cole Porters, the Johnny Mercers, the Sammy Kahns. These guys were poets.
Yeah.
And Frank recognized that.
What was your favorite? Well, you had many artists. You said Sinatra.
Oh,
you met
Sinatra.
Dean Martin. You met Dean Martin.
Oh, yeah, I met Dean a couple of times,
right?
yeah.